So now that we are here again, so let's run through this chart. Let's see what's happening, and if there are any advices, suggestions, I will be sharing them in due time. So I'll be advising you all to stay tuned in till the end of the session so that you don't miss out on any of the trading opportunities that I'm going to be sharing with us all here today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening. So the first pair as usual we'll be deliberating on is the US oil, and on the US oil price, action has been moving just as expected as we've been bullish since the beginning of the week. And this is what we have here. During the course of the live session yesterday, we had a scenario around this point where we saw the breakout of the structure. And what my intention was that since we already saw this breakout of structure, and for those who didn't take advantage of that move during the course of yesterday, I advised you to wait for price action to either come to retest this area or probably this bullish trend line. Then we'll be looking for a bullish momentum from that point. But lo and behold, this is exactly what happened. We saw our price came back to do a retest of that structure here. In fact, we had multiple rejection of that level. So if you had missed the first one, you could have taken the second one. If you had made the second one, you could have taken the third one. And if you had missed the third one, you could have taken the fourth one. We had like 4 multiple rejection of that level, and price continued to the upside from that point. So right now, since the beginning of the week, since the breakout of the $92 level, we've been running with about approximately 300 pips at this point. And for those who actually joined from this point yesterday, you will be about 160 pips in profit at this point in time. So now that we are heading into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans on the US oil and what is going to be our expectations? Well, after looking at this chart this morning, the first thing I was able to do is to connect the series of the higher lows. Let's scale up a little into the 3 hours time frame so that we can see what I'm talking about here. So on the 3 hours time frame, this is what we have here. Since last week, we see our price has continued to respect an imaginary bullish trend line. So what I did was to connect the series of higher lows. At this point, we saw the first touch here, we saw another touch here, and we saw multiple rejection of that level during the early days of this week before we saw the trend continuation to the upside. And what we had here during the course of yesterday, though price didn't get too close to that level, but we're still going to be using this one. So I was able to identify this bullish trend line. So going into the New York session today, this bullish trend line will serve as a guide. Now that we have this bullish trend line identified on the chart, what are we going to be doing with it? Well, before we go further here, I want to share with you the perspective we have on the higher time frame. That is, how did we get to this point of decision, especially for those who are not with us during the early days of the week. So if we scale up a little into the daily time frame, or probably let's say the weekly time frame, for instance, we had a scenario where we had a very strong bullish momentum that has held price action supported to the upside in the last 2 years. And one thing we observed before the beginning of the week was that price is right around that bullish trend line one more time, respecting that area with multiple rejection in the last couple of weeks, giving us a clue into a possible bullish momentum emerging from this point. So now that we have this scenario here, so we definitely want to be looking for bullish potential from this level. Remember we said if we see a breakdown of that level during the when we started this week, I told you if we see a breakdown of that level, then we will be seeing that as a signal that price is going to the downside. But if we continue to see patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside, then we will get ourselves prepared to take advantage of that move. Now when we scale down a little into probably the 3 hours 4 hours time frame, we begin to see that we had a breakout of this bearish trend line that we were able to connect. We saw this bearish trend line on Monday. We connected this lower heights that started in the month of June. So we were able to connect this lower heights. And one thing we said during the early days of this week was that if we see an outright breakout of that level, that should give us a confirmation, sorry, give us a signal that price is moving to the upside. So what we did now after identifying that breakout was to identify this key level at $92 mark, as we want to be seeing price break out of that structure to give us a further confirmation that things are actually going in our favor. And so what did we see here? We saw the breakout of structure during I think a couple of days ago to give us that confirmation that a bullish momentum is here to stay on the US oil. So with that information in hand, we identified the structure yesterday. We saw this after the breakout of that. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So after the breakout of that $92 level, we saw a consolidation phase here, which transposed into a wedge structure. Then we saw the breakout of that structure to join the trend continuation. So yesterday I shared with you that we wait for price to come back to do a retest of this level to join the rally. So this has happened now. So what are we going to be seeing in the New York session today? First of all, let's see what happened in the last 24 hours. So in the last 24 hours, we have observed that price action has continued to reject the $95.70 level. So somewhere here. Hold on a second. Let's. So we've seen multiple rejections of this level. We saw as soon as price got into this area. Hold on. As soon as price got into this area, we saw multiple rejection of this level, giving us a clue into some sell-off happening at this point in time. That is, those who took advantage of this move from this point here are actually quickly doing some quick sells to take some profit. And what I will be saying here is that we want to be moving our stop loss to somewhere very, very significant. So let's look at the structure we have here. So if we look left, we can see that we have a structure around this area. We see how price has rejected this area. This area has been a demand niche in the past, so I want to be connecting this level together. So what I'll be doing here is to bring out my line chart here, and then we connect this this point. Let me see. I want to see the average point. I think $94 level. I think the $94 level. Let's give this a purple. Okay, somewhere here. So let's give this a label now. So we have the $94, 94.20 level. So going into the New York session today, we now have another level we want to be looking forward to. So what I'll be suggesting here is to, for those who are already in this trade, move your stop loss right below the $94 mark, so that we lock in some profit and we don't get caught up in unnecessary pullback that might be happening at this point. So right now, what I'm going to be looking forward to, especially for those who are not in this trade, should be looking forward to price to come back into somewhere around here. It could be somewhere around the $94 level here, or price could even come as far as this bullish trend line, where we look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation to the upside. So on the US oil, if you are not yet in this trade, then you want to be looking forward to price coming back down into the $94 area, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line we were able to identify. And then we look out for patterns on lower time frame that support a trend continuation to the upside. And remember, you might be asking now, where will our take profit target be? Obviously, Well, we had a scenario here on the higher time frame where we were able to identify a zone between the $104 area and the 116 area as a TP target for the US oil from in a long-term perspective. And where how did we identify that level? Well, we looked at the previous structure we had here. We had this impulsive move that started from the $124 mark that took price right back into the $85 level. So what we did here is to bring out our Fibonacci retracement tool and run it through that impulse leg. Then we aim at between the 50 and the 78.6%, which is our golden zone area as a take profit target for this trade, which will dovetail to a minimum of 1,200 pips and a maximum of over 2,000 pips to catch here as we continue to monitor price action in that direction. So this is what we are expecting here on the US oil. So our bullish buyers on the US oil still remains against the New York session today. And another thing I also want to share here on the 1 hour time frame after looking at the current structure we have here is to let you know that in case price does not come back into the $94.20 level, that is price continue to the upside, then if we see a breakout of the $95.70 level, this area that has been a selling niche in the last 10 hours here, if we see price break out of that structure, then we want to be seeing this move as a signal. Then what do? We wait for price to give us that confirmation, which is likely going to come in form of a retest of the structure on our lower time frame. That is your 15 minutes, your 10 minutes, your 5 minutes time frame, whichever that is. We look out for patterns on lower time frame that supports a trend continuation from that point. So this is what we are going to be looking forward to. If there is an area in my discourse that you don't really understand, feel free to drop a word or two in the comment section and I'll be willing to be of help. So if you have any question whatsoever, feel free to drop it in the comment section and I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the chat to see if there are any questions whatsoever. So let's see what's happening in the chat. Okay, Ram